Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the May 2nd, 2018 meeting, Danville-Boyle County Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you for your presence. We'll begin in prayer as tradition. Our God and Father in heaven, we thank Thee for this most beautiful day and all the blessings of it, the health You've given us, allow us to arise and walk upon your earth another day. We thank Thee for this community we live in and this country we live in and all the blessings of it, the safety and protection You've given us, watching over and caring for us. We pray for our servicemen and women who continue to fight and defend our freedoms. We pray that You would bless and protect, comfort them, bring them home to their loved ones as soon as possible. Be with us today as we make decisions that will affect this community, and may those decisions be in the best interest for all involved. Be with us in all things. In Christ's name we pray, amen. Item C on the agenda is approval of minutes for April 4th, 2018.
Well, I move we approve the minutes.
Terry moves we approve minutes.
I'll second.
Mary Beth seconds. Question, discussion on the motion to approve minutes. Hearing none, all in favor. Vote unanimous. Item D, financial report 2018.
I want to make one comment, Mr. Chairman. Got that in your packet, detailed like normal. You see in the right-hand column, we got our 75% budget target because you're looking at March. And there's a couple numbers down through there you can easily see are over the 75%, but the categories in general, total revenues, total expenditures, subcategory expenditures, pretty much in line. Couple categories a little high as we anticipated because we didn't change everything when we amended the budget. But what we'd like to do, and we'll talk about this a little later under new business, is have the budget committee meet end of the month. We'd like to do a budget amendment in June for a couple of those categories, but we'll get the budget committee together if that's okay. But just wanted to point those out. A couple categories running high. Attorney, they're down there. As we knew, we did some extra things, and the other one that jumps out is postage. These are minor numbers, but again, we want to get all those in line. Computer software, a couple things. They're really minor, but we'll just do a housekeeping amendment in June. But we'll talk about the budget committee meeting later. And the other thing you don't see, unfortunately, we mentioned this before, since we meet the first Monday, we're a month behind on the finance report, but we got the bank statements actually yesterday, and the bank balance shot way up because we had a big April as far as fees go. So you don't see that because you're a month behind. If we met the third Wednesday or the fourth Wednesday, you guys would actually get to see the current month finance report, but because of the timing of the bank statement, we just got it, and the finance report could have been done today, but then you guys would see our bank balance jumped up to $112,000 when you see that balance sheet. So we had a big month of fees. One of those rick houses came in, some other things. So number shot way up, but you guys won't see it till next month, unfortunately. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on financial? Hearing none, to have a motion.
So moved.
Jeff moves we approve.
Second.
Jim seconds. Question, discussion on the motion to approve financial report March 2018. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Vote unanimous. Thank you. Item E, letters of credit.
Yep, I got a report on that real quick. First off, before I start, I just formally want to thank the Planning Commission for hiring me. I'll just let you know I've had a great last 2 months, and part of it is this right here. I love construction, by the way. So we got to go out and walk around on Hunt Farm and measure asphalt and talk about paving, and we're doing a drainage design for Mapletree, and that's stuff I love. So I appreciate this. Really appreciated this job last month because get outside and do that kind of stuff. But what we're doing on these two, just give you an update. Hunt Farm's ready to go. We met with the county, opened the bids. We got a great bid price that's being extended to us so we can finish Hunt Farm. It's $58 and some change per ton for asphalt. We went out, met with the county engineer and the Allen Company representative, measured everything. It's going to be approximately 300 tons It's going to cost us about $18,000 to do the paving. In addition, we're going to construct a 40 by 20 hammerhead at the end of the one street as a temporary turnaround. That's going to cost about $1378. That's going to be 8-inch. We're going to have 8-inch number 2 stone and 4 inches of DGA as our temporary turnaround. So that's up on that upper street on the left. So they're ready to pave and get that temporary turnaround done in the next 14 days. We're on the schedule to do that. And as you guys know, we are getting the bid price extended to us from the county. Allen Company will send us the bill. We'll pay the bill to finish out the Hunt Farm paving. We got to repair 3 spots on the project. They're just going to level that with some other surface material before we put the final surface down. So the Hunt Farm's ready to go. Mapletree, though.
On Hunt Farm, is there any further discussion, between the developer and the residences on sidewalks? Or
No.
About 60 days from completion of the...
No, I talked to his attorney, and he said they're working on that. They're not, I'm not going to say they're struggling, but they're not being as successful as they thought in getting all the waivers on the sidewalks. So they're trying to get everyone to agree to either put the sidewalks on one side or the other. Appears they're getting kind of some okays and some I'm not sure, and some why that side. So I think that's his responsibility to get us basically a new sidewalk plan and either, some continuity in that, and we're supposed to have that within 60 days. So that's kind of where we're at. But the paving's going to happen in the next 14 days, and then we'll write a check for that. Project 2, Mapletree Place, as you guys know, is pretty much just a drainage scenario that was never constructed properly. I showed you that last month. We called, and last month I asked you guys to give me authority to get proposals. We called all the local engineering firms, and only one turned in a proposal, and that's Vantage. Kendall's here, and you had that in your packet. And what Kendall's proposing is a kind of a 2-step process. We do a conceptual design and model first, and then we would actually stop and meet with the city engineers and talk about that, but we need that regardless. And if the city can't go out and actually construct this for us, then we would actually put together a bid package and construction documents for another $2,500, and we'd be ready to bid that out on the street and get someone else to construct the drainage. But the city's got kind of a targeted drainage scenario they'd like to meet with, maybe won't require us to have a basin at all, but we need to kind of do this model first. So Kendall's got us submitted a proposal that's in your packet. What I'd like to do is ask you guys to give me authorization to enter into this with Vantage, but the plan would be that we initially would start with item 1, the conceptual design. And again, we'd be using the bond money. This would not be coming out of our general operating money, it'd be coming out of the developer's leftover bond money. And in Kendall, there was just a couple items I had where we have that this is between the city of Danville. I thought maybe we probably need to change that to the Planning Commission. And where you got that here and that were referred to as owner, maybe we'd be the developer, and that's, but we could talk about that if you're okay with that. But you guys got that. I'd be glad to answer any questions, or Kendall can. This is to get the Mapletree drainage system put in place that currently has never been constructed.
What's the timeline on item 1 then?
Uh,
I need authorization to enter into an agreement with Mr. Wise there, but
30 days probably.
it'd go pretty quick, I think.
What was the question again, please?
Timeline to get the service provided by Vantage. What we've done, we've talked to the city engineers a couple times, and they've said, hey, we got an idea, an alternative that might work. Let's give us some time to think about it, but we just keep kind of waiting a little bit. They're real busy, and then we figured out we really need a model, conceptual model of all the topo and all that first. There's an idea that we might be able to pipe this all the way to Jackson Park without using any kind of basin. It might work. That's what Kendall's they're going to figure out for us. And if so, then maybe we'd figure out how to get all this drainage to the basin in the park.
So you're looking for a motion right now and approval to...
Yeah, if you guys are comfortable with this, again, we just went out and got quotes. It's a fairly small amount, and again, we'd be using the escrow bond money for the Mapletree Place to pay for this.
I'll make a motion, we accept it with any changes you think you need
Yeah.
to make to the verbiage of the agreement between us and Danville.
And specifically where it says City of Danville in that first paragraph, we'd be changing that to our formal name. and then it says we're referred to as owner, we just change that to developer. Where all through there, you see the word that owner, engineer is used all through the agreement. That'd be the engineer, we'd be the developer in this situation.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's been made, we approve with any changes that Stephen needs, and Terry, you second?
Yes.
Okay, question, discussion on the motion to approve as presented. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Vote unanimous. Item F, subdivision plat approvals. Number 1, Sara Divine, Wayne Hoeck, Divine Road, Perryville.
Yes, sir. This gentleman sitting right here in the front row is purchasing a 15-acre parcel that you guys can see outlined on your exhibit in red. Pretty straightforward plat. The oddity was the right-of-way along the road up there. You see the right-of-way is a little jogs in and out. You see a fence line and an entrance apron, but the actual physical right-of-way kind of moves in and out across the property on the state right-of-way. Technical review looked at the plat. Everything was in compliance, looked good, and glad to answer any questions.
Make a motion for approval.
Motion's been made to approve.
I'll second it.
Mary Beth seconds. How big is this pond?
The physical pond.
Can I get fishing rights? Okay. All right. Motion been made to approve and been second. Question, discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor? Vote unanimous. Thank you.
You're good. Hey, thank you. Good luck to you.
Number 2, Adam Chumbley, subdivision plat, Highway 68.
Yes, sir. This one's interesting, simply because what you're looking at is a plat that's in 2 counties. So you got to you can see the Mercer-Boyle County line, and what's happening here is the surveyor, the property owners are creating a 7.87 acre tract with just a little portion of it is in Boyle County. When we met with the engineer or the surveyor, we explained to them our authority starts and stops at the Boyle County line, although this farm goes across both lines, and what's being conveyed goes over both lines. But our recording authority and review is really the Boyle County side. So what's happening here that's unique is we're going to record this plat in both county courthouses. Both planning commissions are approving this plat. However, Mercer County does it very differently than we do. And then both planning commissions will sign this plat, and again, it'll be recorded in both counties. But the Boyle County part is just a little sliver you see down in there at the bottom. There is floodplain, and it was raised at technical review that there is floodplain on this that you see in that little dashed area. And the question was, how does it stop at the county line, nice and square like that? Well, it actually does not stop at the county line. It filters into our county. And they actually didn't put the dash line on that little triangle into our county, but they did put the reference down in the notes at the bottom and put our FEMA map page references down there. In the bottom of the second line of text, second column of text, at the very bottom, you see the FEMA map references there. So they put the Mercer County zones and the Boyle County flood zone references on the plat. But the flood zone does sort of meander on down through the south and catch that little corner of the piece that's in Boyle County. Again, everything else on the plat looked good to us. We need to prove it. Mercer County has already approved it because they do their plats 100% administratively. They don't go to the planning commission. The director signs them. And so they've already approved it, although we need to sign it, and there needs to be one original with all the signatures is the issue. So the surveyor's going to have to run it back and forth, and then they'll record it in both counties.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Terry moves we approve.
Second.
Jeff seconds. Question, discussion on the motion to approve. Hearing none, all in favor? Vote unanimous. Thank you. And number 3, Bruce Helm, subdivision plat, Perryville Road, Boyle County.
Kendall's plat here, again, just creating a 10-plus acre tract off the parent tract. Pretty square looking piece of property. Setbacks are on it according to the zoning zoning ordinance, technical review looked at it, everything was in compliance.
I move we approve it.
Jim moves we approve.
Second.
Jeff seconds. Question, discussion on the motion to approve. Hearing none, all in favor? Vote unanimous. Item G, nothing there, Mr. Stevens?
No, sir.
And H, new business, no budget committee report, no personnel committee report, advisory committee report. Is there anything there?
No committee reports, however, would like all three committees to attempt to meet before the next meeting. We're ready to dig into some pretty big items, subregs, budget that we just mentioned on the finance report, and got a little personnel issue we want to revise. We got a new health care carrier now with the city going self-funded, so we want to get all the committees to work and do a few housekeeping items, all three. So what I'm hoping for is the last week of May. I know we've got Memorial Day, but maybe the 30th, 29, 30, 31, somewhere in there, maybe we can get the committees to meet before the next planning commission, whatever, and Jenny can start sending out and see what works for all you guys. Susie's out of the country, actually. She's gone to China. And so I don't know her schedule, but I believe she said she'd be back 14 days or something like that. Exciting time for them as she's going with a family member to adopt a new grandbaby, so she's pretty excited. So we'll try at the end of the month, if that works for you guys, budget, personnel, and advisory.
Zoning permits, any comment on that, Steve?
Didn't look at that. That is March again. It's in your packet. April again was a pretty big month. You'll see that next month, I guess.
Okay. Any other new business?
Just want to ask about the interlocal agreement, see if we have any ideas on updating that.
Yeah, we hadn't talked about that much. The interlocal agreement, as you guys know, is kind of the big agreement that pulls all the governments together and created the Planning Commission to some degree. The interlocal agreement is really the instrument of those four governments, and we have an old interlocal agreement. I have met with the city of Danville and the county about a revision to the interlocal agreement. Jerry and Jeffrey were there when we had that discussion. It was also about some budget issues. We kind of had just a meeting with them. So there's a draft of a new interlocal agreement, but that would be something I think they might want to take the lead on. And then Perryville has not seen it, and then Junction City, this would be a perfect opportunity to meet with Junction City and see if at some point they wanted to be a party to that agreement. But the old agreement dates back in the 80s, 90s, something like that. It's not very detailed. So there is a draft out there. You guys haven't seen it as a planning commission because, again, it really kind of evolves with the city and the county and those member governments on how they see the planning commission operating, how it's funded, those kind of things. But I'm not sure what you want to jump on there, but the interlocal agreement is in need of a revision. And there's a draft on my desk. And again, the county judge has a draft, the mayor, city manager, and then we all looked at it. But we were really talking about the budget that day on how the funding arrangement was. But there's a lot of other stuff that could be in it or should be in it.
So if you're saying that you've taken the draft and you've distributed that and asked for feedback on it?
I don't think we were even at that point. I think I had a draft because we were talking about how the funding works. And we were actually at that meeting talking about what our funding requests would be for the city and the county. And I talked about the need that we could revise the interlocal agreement and we could fund different ways, and that's what they were going to think about. It was less about the whole agreement or what could be in the agreement or what other interlocal agreements that other planning commissions look like.
Well, to kind of jumpstart that discussion, could you go ahead and just send that out to the four cities and just say, hey, can I get some feedback on this by such and such date?
Well, what's really interesting is I met with Mayor Douglas again the other day, just more informal, which he prefers, and I do too, at one of his job sites. And I'd like to do that, but I'd also like to spend some more time meeting with the council down there and talking with them about what they see maybe our role being. And then hopefully if we did something, it would be timed right where all four governments were participating in that discussion. But I could send it out to all 4 governments. It's just they might not understand why I'm sending it to them at this point.
Well, one of the things I'm thinking about is when we look at a timeline of elections and so forth, when new folks are voted in, they've got a learning curve on a whole number of things. And so any of these housekeeping issues that we feel like we need to have done, I'd keep an eye on what that timeline is, kind of have the people who are in place now who can make some choices and decisions, give them an opportunity to come together on an interlocal agreement now, rather than putting it off into the next year.
You guys remember anything? I mean, I think we got pretty good feedback. It was just kind of more talking about funding that day. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but my understanding is that was, I thought that was what the advisory committee was going to.
You guys were going to look at
Working on
it
it.
draft 2, once we got some feedback, I guess, from them. But yeah, we can speed that up. What's unique is I don't think the interlocal agreement, we're going to look at it and probably get a general draft, but it's not something the planning commission would vote on and say, this is our interlocal. Those governments together, like a contract, are the signatures on an interlocal agreement.
Yeah, I
So
understand.
ultimately, it's going to go to all their legal departments and for them to say, we can agree with this conceptually
I think mostly you were cleaning up some language
for funding.
issues and things.
Yeah, yeah. And again, working, there was a couple things that seemed to lack, a few little structural things. So, yeah, we can do that if you guys are okay with that. We can put on the advisory committee's to-do list too. Not sure about shooting it out to the governments yet. It was still a little rough. And I might need to give the 2 smaller towns a heads up what they'd be looking at, because it does look like a contract to some level, So,
You good with that?
I'm gonna leave it up to Stephen when he thinks we're ready to do that. I don't know that, well, I think the advisory committee probably needs to make that decision.
yeah, we'll put it on that as one of the housekeeping things we'll look at, and we'll see if the draft looks ready, and give me a little bit of time to look at it again. Sure. Maybe get some other models for y'all to look at.
Okay.
So,
I'm not sure, that may be some, well, I'm
yeah.
not going to speak out.
We really need all the attorneys of the governments to be involved. That's where it's going to end up, is, we're going to send it to the mayors and the judges, and eventually they're going to send it to their councils.
We're obviously going to have a new judge executive,
Mhm.
so, I mean, I don't know if that's something Harold might want.
There's nothing in,
predecessor to-
yeah, there was nothing in there I remember that was
Yeah.
real earth-shattering or anything.
No.
It's just how we fund the planning commission, and then who the parties would be interesting,
I think most of it was just cleaning up and making it more specific, because it was a very non-specific document.
Yeah, the interlocal agreement creates the planning commission as a joint planning commission. Then your bylaws lay out all the kind of in-house workings of how we operate, as well as our documents. While we're there, the subdivision regulations were on the agenda. Nothing today, although that's the advisory committee. I'm ready to bring you guys a fairly good draft of what would be a revision to 1, 2, and 7. And then definitions move here, just a reorganization. The big part of the subregs, chapters 5 and 6, would stay the same on standards. We got to get the engineers in the room to talk about that at some point, and the private guys too. But the housekeeping stuff on how we manage subdivisions, how we do bonds, that's ready to go. But we'd have to have a formal public hearing at some point. So the advisory committee, that's really what I'm going to be bringing you guys, is the subregs drafts and the more final, and let you all look through them.
Great.
So,
Any other new business or questions, discussion we need to deal with? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Jeff moves. Wendy seconds. All in favor, we're adjourned. Thank you.
You guys got conflict?